Hi, Saloni. Thank you so much for joining us. A very happy Women's Day week and month and a year from Go Rewise to you. And I was really inspired by the work that you're doing and how so early in your career you chose this field and how you're building, a business in the space now. And I'm really excited to hear from you. What are you building and what inspired you to, really do something in climate action?
Thanks, Aditi, and happy Women's Day back at you and everyone watching. It's so exciting that you folks are doing this and love the work that Go Rewise is doing as well. I think just a little bit of an introduction. I've been in development and social impact my entire career, which is not that long. I actually joined the States right out of undergrad. At that point, it was because I felt like I really wanted to pursue my passion, be in the impact space. I had worked on a social entrepreneurship project as an undergrad student. So really felt like that was my calling. And that's when I sort of joined the venture philanthropy space. We were sector agnostic in the organization I was working at, so really had exposure to many, many different sectors. And this was back in 2019, where climate was still very sort of relatively nascent, especially in the philanthropy space. But you could see the impacts everywhere. Like you could see, massive increase in like just generally the incidences of disasters. You could see changes in cropping patterns on any kind of agriculture project. It's almost like everything had this like common umbrella cause. And that's really when we also started working on climate, at the sort of space I was working in, looking at it from a philanthropy perspective. Personally felt very excited because I'm someone who loves green spaces and I love sort of, any kind of natural landscapes. That's sort of my thing. I had the opportunity to grow up by the sea. So really feel one with nature. And, I think it's very visible to all of us how that's changing very rapidly, very sort of in the last, couple of decades. So always had a very strong motivation from that perspective, worked in philanthropy, a lot of very interesting perspectives on how to bring in climate financing from different sources, but also felt the need to do more than beyond philanthropy and really kind of mainstream climate. That's really where GoodStep was born. I think the goal was that at that point we were having these conversations with a lot of people. This was also during COVID. It was when suddenly, all of the inequities that we in the development sector work with every day were out front and center for everyone to see. And I think we just had this realization that, listen, there are a lot of people who want to do something because, a lot of people around me would keep calling. It was like, oh, what can I do? Can I help? So clearly there was this intention. For some reason, there was sort of inability to take action, lack of information, lack of sort of trust, not knowing where efforts would be most useful. So I think we started with a very simple question that clearly people care, but why do we have that intention action gap? That's when we kind of moved into a lot of research, user conversation, realized a lot of this big interest in climate and how correlated it is with all kinds of sort of issues that people care about. That's really where the idea for Good Step was born. We've evolved a lot since then, but I'll give you the quick version on what we do today. We've got two verticals to the work that we do. One is more on the B2C space, helping people like you and me get started with climate action. I'm going to talk a little bit about why we did this and why it's different a little later, but essentially it is a way for you to kind of support a verified climate justice project through a purchase. So we sell these beautiful upcycled products made out of PET bottles. They are made by women artisans in Rajasthan, some of the finest workmanship and finest artisans I've known. And when you buy those, 50% of your proceeds go to a climate justice project of your choice. What kinds of projects you could be supporting? Women solar entrepreneurs in Rajasthan, waste warriors who are cleaning up the Himalayan regions, and even tribal farmers in Andhra Pradesh. The idea was, how do you support real India's real climate causes as an individual? And let's make it happen for you through a purchase. The second thing that we do is with groups of people, so businesses, civic action groups, essentially any kind of community, business or otherwise, that's looking to start taking climate action. We help them in two ways. One is through awareness generation and learning platforms, which are basically ways for you to take these groups through curriculums, help them get interested in climate, see where their role really lies. And the second is through sort of custom support. If you're someone who's interested and now aware, then we can help you with more custom advisory services on how you can make your carbon transitions, where is climate justice for you, what is the most meaningful thing and roadmap that you can take. So that in a nutshell is us at GoodStep.
Thank you, Saloni, so much for explaining us in detail on how you started and what you are now building with Good Steps. Really inspired by the lens that you see things as well. Another insight that I wanted to know from you is how do we really inspire inclusion in this space?
Sure. And, I think that's something that I'm very passionate about as someone with social impact roots because I think the very first day I went into work or the first engagement I had taken was in disability rights. And disability rights has this amazing motto. It says nothing for us without us. I think the same thing applies to inclusion in climate. It means that, India's real climate problems is actually 10 times worse for our frontline communities, our farmers, our fisher folk, our forest women. But we're not talking about them at the fore of climate conversations. Where do they come in, right? We're very sort of Western in our perspective, where we do think about carbon footprints and electric vehicles and veganism. And there are a lot of these trends that we associate with climate and sustainability. And maybe it's time to balance that narrative and also think about it from a what are India's sort of bigger implications? Our problem is as much about resilience and adaptation to the impacts that we face in the here and now. And how do the communities that face those impacts come to the fore? And this really is exactly why, we did set up the B2C angle of the work we do, because we wanted people to start thinking about climate from a justice lens, from an India lens, from a what happens to Indian communities. And therefore, you have that curated list of projects that I shared earlier as a small way to say that, hey, you get a beautiful purchase, but by the way, when you do that, you are supporting the communities who are at the forefront of real India's bigger, real climate issues. So to me, I think climate justice and thinking about it from a who is really affected most and how do they come to the forefront is the definition of inclusion. And then how do we bring these people along on our journey? Right? Can we involve vulnerable communities as people in our team? We've tried to do that at GoodStep, and that's an amazing way because in purely business terms, it's almost like having your customer on your team, and that's a very, very solid strategic advantage also over and above, these amazing inclusion benefits. So those are two things I think in the work that you do, in the solutions that you have. Think about where is the representation and benefit and support to the communities affected most. And second is that they're the biggest stakeholders here. How do you take them along on your journey?
Yeah, lovely. I think one of my go-to lines from this conversation, my learnings would be for climate, bring the community and your customer on board. So thank you so much
Yeah,
for sharing your perspective
love that.
and very proud of what you're building. All the best to you.